Now, as I mentioned in my video of the top 5 ways to invest your money in 2020, I mentioned the fact that there's going to be a lot of uncertainty as we come into this new year, 2020. Now, the start of a new year could naturally bring in a lot of uncertainty no matter what era you're in, but I think it's especially apparent in this era. We have the 2020 election coming up, and if you didn't see that last video where I explained the probability and my thoughts and views on whether or not I think that Donald Trump will be reelected, you can see that video. Link will be down in the description down below. And you can also see that video where I showed you the top 5 ways to invest your money. Both of those links will be down in the description. On top of the 2020 election, it's also been 10 years, and I also did a video on that as well, on how the US avoided a recession for a decade. All of these links you could find down below. And so there's going to be a lot of uncertainty coming in this new year. Fidelity recently asked Americans of all ages what their top concerns are coming into this new year. And so they have identified exactly what their financial concerns are. And so in this video, I'm going to be going over the top 5 financial concerns for 2020. Number 1, unplanned expenses. For over half of Americans, 51%, it was found that unplanned and unexpected bills are going to be a large concern for most Americans coming into 2020. This makes a lot of sense considering the fact that 39% of Americans say that they cannot handle an unexpected mere $400 expense. So what's the solution? How can we fix this? Well, if you don't have enough funds saved up to cover at least 3 months of expenses, then you have to start cutting back on expenses and taking a look at areas where you could cut down on, so that way you're saving more money in your pocket every paycheck, every month, no matter what you do for a living. Perhaps live more frugally and map out a budgeting plan until you have amassed some sort of a cash reserve. But if there's only so much that you can cut down on, you might have to think about getting a second job or starting that side hustle to pad yourself and protect yourself. But the conversation shouldn't be just how much you could be able to cut down on, but actually how could you make more money to cover those expenses. If you want to be able to afford the large cost of living, well then you're going to have to start thinking large. So how could you make 10% more than you already make, 20%, 50%? How could you double your income? You have to start thinking at this level and this scale, so that way you'll be able to live more comfortably. This is no secret. Number 2, it's going to be personal debt. A good 38% of Americans are worried about carrying debt into the year 2020 and most likely beyond that. This includes credit cards, student loans, and of course their mortgage, and these expenses are just piling up and seem to never ever end. Out of these 3, I would definitely say that credit card debt is something that you want to try to tackle right away and as soon as possible, because you don't want that interest to start snowballing and affect you later down the road in 10 times harder. It goes back to spending more cautiously and maybe even boosting your income with a side gig, and this will help you be able to pay off that debt. You might be even able to make that debt more affordable and digestible by refinancing it for a lower interest rate, and you should also be able to do this as well for your mortgage and your student loans. Right now, mortgage rates are at an all-time low, and you could think about refinancing to get those lower rates. But again, the conversation should not just be how could we take care of this personal debt, but how could we avoid it in the first place? Perhaps you didn't have to go to that fancy, expensive university in the first place where you had to drown yourself with nearly 6 figures in debt. You didn't have to make those impulse purchases where you were spending so much money that you could not even afford on your credit cards. And you didn't have to try to keep up with the Joneses by buying something that only you have to contribute money to and doesn't actually produce anything for you, which is a house, which is something that most people should not even think about buying unless they truly can afford it. And the third financial concern going into 2020 is not saving enough for short and long-term needs. 36% of Americans believe that they will not be able to do a good enough job for saving for near-term goals as well as retirement. And this will once again go back to judicious spending as well as perhaps getting a side gig, but it's also going to be about actually disciplining yourself and taking that initiative to take control of your finances. Trying to save a nickel, a dollar here and there isn't going to help you retire comfortably. You will not be able to have financial freedom by just trying to save a penny on a cup of coffee, and you're going to actually want to invest that money and make yourself disciplined and actually map out a true plan where you're going to be taking a certain amount of money every single week, every single month, and putting that aside with no excuses, no ifs, ands, or buts. The cost of living will only continue to skyrocket, and let's say you're a millennial now and you're expected to retire in, let's say, 30 or 40 years from now. Well, you're not going to be able to live freely with just trying to save a penny on a cup of coffee. You're going to have to do a lot more than that. If you're already contributing to a 401k, you might want to even try to force yourself to contribute even more, or try to do another account on your own like a IRA. And if you'd like to see how to invest and start up a Roth IRA, what to invest in, I'll throw in some links down below where I cover Roth IRAs and the benefits and tax advantages that you get from them. And when it comes to near-term goals, I'm going to expect that that means something like saving up for a brand new car or trying to afford the latest fashion trends. And I really don't even think you should even try to think that way, and rather save that money as well, as opposed to trying to just save up for something that you're going to end up throwing away and won't produce for you. When you start thinking in terms of liabilities versus assets, you'll understand that assets will only do wonders for you, whereas liabilities will drain you out of every penny that you have. Rethink that brand new car. Think again about buying something that you will have no need for and will not do anything for you. Keeping up with the Joneses is a pipeline that you don't want to get yourself into, because it's a never-ending cycle that will never ever do anything for you and only negatively affect you. Number 4, and this is a big talking point in this election season, and that is rising healthcare costs. It's not surprising to see that 33% of Americans foresee rising healthcare costs climbing into this new year. Right now, it was found that most people, retired adults and working, are unable to keep up with their healthcare expenses. And there's also going to be new concerns on top of that, on top of their unpaid medical bills, like Medicare premium hikes that are coming this year. This is an extremely valid concern, and so you're going to want to try to work this into your budget, and so that way you'll be able to cover this with no problem. Save efficiently, increase your income. How many times do we have to say it? If you're eligible to do so, try to contribute as much as you can to a health savings account, or try to find a flexible spending account so that way you'll have enough pre-tax funds for healthcare expenses in 2020. And if you're retired on Medicare, you want to try to take advantage of those preventative health services. These are free and could potentially save you money by nipping those potentially costly health issues in the bud. Most people cannot afford prescription drugs and the cost of a medical bill, but if you are able to make your income increase, and whether what age you're in, what age bracket, what income level you're in, try to increase your income and never stop working on it. There's no point in living in a box where you're making the same amount for 40 years straight. Try to do something where you can grow and progress. Even a little bit of progress every year, every day adds up tremendously. And number 5, the 5th financial concern for Americans coming into 2020 is going to be the economy, the stock market volatility, and interest rates. Now, although these are factors that we don't necessarily have in our control, it still concerns 23% of Americans. However, what you can do and can prepare for is negative economic news and a market downturn. I did an entire video showing exactly how you should prepare for a recession step by step, what actions you should take immediately. Again, that video will be down in the description down below. You can find all the videos I've linked down below. You could be laid off tomorrow. The market can correct itself 50%. We have seen this before. It is not impossible. Having that emergency savings, diversifying your portfolio, these are great ways to protect yourself from a potential economic downturn. Now, do pay attention to interest rates. These are important because they can affect the economy and the market, but you shouldn't be absolutely obsessed with them, but do pay attention to them if you're looking at buying a home in the near future. If you are looking to apply for a mortgage, then now is a good time. If I do say so myself, these rates are historic lows. Interest rate drops or hikes can influence your portfolio greatly, so make sure that you are diversified enough in different areas so that way all of your eggs are not in one basket. The idea is to come out on top and maybe even in profit, as all of the great investors have done and are able to during a recession, and you don't want to be on the victim end. So even though we are in a booming economy, it looks like there's no stopping in sight, you are going to want to take steps to protect yourself. Clearly there's a lot of uncertainty, but don't just focus on the negative coming into 2020. Think about how you can improve your financial picture and outlook. Instead of being reactive, be proactive, and the more proactive you can be in regard, the less you will have to worry about. There are definitely concerns this coming new year, but there's definitely also solutions and ways that we can fix them. So don't just sit back and watch it all happen. Take action. If you enjoyed that video, if you got value out of it, be sure to give it a big thumbs up, smash that like button, and if you'd like to see more videos from my channel, I post videos every single week just like this. Be sure to subscribe to my channel. And if you'd like to be notified every single time I upload a new one so that you're first in line to see it before anyone else, be sure to hit that little notification bell as well so that we're notified every time I upload a new one. See you in the next video.